I had one. Oh, that won't match. It's blue. Okay, so I'm gonna start since this is gonna go up. Um, YouTube will upload it for anyone that misses it tomorrow. So first, I want to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody. This is my. Her pants look too high. I'm looking here. There, yeah, that's your belly there. Okay, your pants looked a little too hiked up. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had a fun and safe New Year's Eve. I want to give a shout out to the family whose elderly loved one was killed in Toronto in a hit and run accident on New Year's Eve. So I want to send prayers out to that family. And I hope they find who did it and is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So I watched the New York City ball drop last night, which was fun. What else was I gonna say? My dogs were singing their little choir music in New Year's all at the same time, howling away. So anyway, I'm doing a special live today. I'm not working today. I'm doing a special live because her face is actually more red than this. The lighting is making her look not as red. Anyway, today is my 6-year anniversary as an artist. And it's been quite the journey. I've learned a lot. I've started out with folk art paint, worked my way up to the highest grade paints that are used today. Original baby she is. This is Johnny by Ina Volpridge. I went from lower price paint as folk art. I started out with folk art. I started with air dry. And I worked my way up to a combination of Ultimate Fusion and Golden Fluids. And, oh, sorry, one sec. And I worked my way up, and now I've actually, since spring, I've been doing heat set, which is the highest grade that you can do. And I've been enjoying it, and I've been really loving it. And I just recently subscribed to a new teacher's classes for heat set, which is Eborn's. She has membership classes on YouTube, and she teaches mostly heat set. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot from her over this next year. I'm just very excited. So I basically been using my knowledge as an air dry artist and using it on heat set. But I find that it's too highly concentrated for heat set because you do more layers in air dry than you do in heat set. So I'm finding that the heat sets are coming out, darker than I'm trying to get them to go, or not the color range I'm trying to get them to go. I mean, they're still beautiful and everything like that, but I've had to really use my knowledge and not follow every single layer that I would have done with air dry. So that's why I'm really excited to take these classes and learn a lot. I'm going to learn more 3D effects to them. This one is silicone. I painted this one. She's the only silicone I painted. Unfortunately, it's not showing you her accurate color. She has more of red toning in her face because she's a newborn. So I did her more of a red tone, um, like the color of a newborn baby. But the lives take out saturation and it also takes out contrast. So that's why you don't really get the full effect of what they actually look like. So when I do my update photo or like videos and stuff like that, um, I fix the contrast and I fix the saturation to make them look more than what they actually look like. So um, you always want to go by my update videos, and I actually have an update on Heat Set Tank that I will be posting. And I'm also going to start working on my Lemon 8 account. I haven't worked on it because I wanted to save it for just my heat set journey. So now that I actually have photos that I want to share and updates, I'm going to do that. There's a lot I want to learn. I don't know how much time I'm going to have for sculpting in this next year. Um, I will be doing the last of my air dry this winter. It's probably starting near the end of January, early February. I'll be doing the last of my air dry. And then come spring, when I order more heat set supplies from the UK, I will be going full-time heat set. I won't be doing air dry anymore. I also want, the opportunity to work on more like silicone. She's the only silicone that I've done. And I just used my knowledge as a reborn artist and applied that to her, but in a different way because she's silicone. And silicone is a completely different process than vinyl. And air dry is different than heat set. So they're all different from each other, and it's challenging. But I worked on a couple practice faces before her. But she has a beautiful like reddish complexion. You just can't, the light is taking that out, unfortunately. Not just the light, but just how just how it works on here. But yeah, I got a lot of requests from people to bring Ella on today, so that's why Ella is here. Yeah, I do hope to do more silicones in the future. I mean, they are fun because, but they are very delicate. You have to be very, very careful with these darlings. You have to be careful with any type of reborn, really, because they're made out of art. They're not toys from a toy store or anything like that. So you really do need to be very careful with them. But silicone is even much more fragile. And the higher you go in silicone, the heavier they will get. So you want to keep that in mind when going silicone. Love her little face. They do sell partial silicone, which I think is also great because if it has a cloth body, you can put in like a breathing device. So it looks like they're breathing. They also sell devices. They are expensive, but they do sell a device that breathes and makes like cooing sounds and different baby sounds and stuff like that. And those ones are more money, and they have heartbeat, which I think that I really want to get one of those. For my Laura kit. So, but they are really expensive, and so is supplies. And so are vet bills these days. So we only talk English on here. My apologies, but I don't know how to speak any other language. And I don't even know how to speak my own my own ancestry language. So only English, sorry. Yes, I do make the babies. I I didn't sculpt this one, but I painted her. I'm just learning sculpting. Um, she was done by Ina Volprich, who's a brilliant sculptor. And she has her in an open-eyed version. She also has she also turned this one also into a boy version with sleeping or open eyes. But she's the from the original sculpt. She was the first ones that were released, and I like this one the best. I'm not a big fan of the other ones. I think she looks the most realistic out of all of them. Um, but there was probably it's very hard to get silicones in Canada. Um, a lot of the silicone sculptures are either in the U.S., but mostly I find a lot of them are in the U.K. Um, or they're in other types of international countries. Um, so I really am looking forward to when I have the time to spend on working more on sculpting. I have worked on sculpting and I was picking it up, but I just got really busy and behind due to health and personal issues. That I had to deal with, emergencies that I had to deal with. So it really put me behind in my work. So that's why I'm probably not going to have a lot of time to work on sculpting during this next year. I've also run into one of our dogs have cancer, so there's been a lot of veterinarian bills to find out, how bad the cancer is, you know, so we can dictate, how much time she has comfortably. I don't know how to comfortably. I don't know how to say that. But anyway, we didn't think she'd be here for Thanksgiving. And she was. And she was here for Christmas as well. So she goes to the vet every so often for wellness checks to make sure that she's not in any pain and all that kind of stuff. So, it costs money. And we'll be having. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's been rough. She's a retired service dog for my sister, so it's just been. So my sister, who's special needs and things like that, was terrified of winding up alone when Lily passes away. So I got her a poodle, and he's in training actually right now. He's almost 7 months, and he's in training to be a psychiatric service dog for her, and he's doing very well with it. He's still young though, it's they have up to 2 years to kind of pass everything. They're basically in training, but each dog is different. Some pass training faster than others. But yeah, he's doing really good. But he was expensive too. He wasn't cheap, and then all the puppy shots and all. So it's just been a rough time, So I've been basically working on a lot of customs to pay for to help. And my sister can't work, so I'm helping to pay for all this. I'm my sister's caregiver along with my mother, and we all live with her. And she's a huge Wicked fan, so she's really excited about her Wicked stuff she got for Christmas. And she does her own videos on TikTok, and she has a lot of fun with it. So, but yeah, it's been challenging. The last 3 years have been extremely challenging. 2024 was my worst year. 2025 wasn't too bad. I mean, half the year was really stressful, but then it got a lot better, and I learned heat set, and I'm doing really well with it. I haven't melted anyone, so I haven't burned myself, So I'm doing pretty good. I'm really glad I started out in air dry, though. I am so glad I started out in air dry. Oh man, it's a lot more expensive to do heat set. But what I love about heat set is I don't have to work as fast with air dry because air dry dries extremely fast, where heat set you have more time. Like air dry dries in seconds. So he said if you make a mistake and all that, and I do have health issues. Someone mentioned that they noticed that I was tremoring. Well, I have a fatigue disorder, so I do drink green tea. It doesn't have as much coffee as pop or like coffee or anything like that. But sometimes because of my tendonitis, if I'm holding something like in a certain position, my hand might shake a bit, or I could have bumped the tripod. So doing heat set is less stress, on my joints and everything. I also have a chronic vertigo condition, which is why I can't drive a car. So I have a mobility scooter because it goes a lot slower. Um, and I just can't use it in the wintertime. I can't, my dream is to get the one that looks like a mini car. I mean, that's my overall dream. It's like $10,000 in Canada, though. It's really expensive. But it's really cool. It's all closed in, heating, cooling. You can use it all year round. So that's my dream scooter. But so anyway, I mean, when I have to work really, really fast, in air dry, when you're like, like trying to get it all, it can affect my vertigo from the motion of my hand moving so much. So heat set has just been so better for me. There are more health risks with heat set. So I use a ventilator mask that you would see people sanding or using around chemicals and stuff like that. So I do wear that, and I also have like it looks like a ski mask. When I say goggles, it looks more like a ski mask, but it's safetied. So it's got like it seals to your face really good, and it keeps the fumes from your eyes because it can enter your bloodstream through your eyes because, just like you can get sick if you rub your eyes after touching something in the store, and if there's a virus on there, it enters. So it's kind of like that. So, and I wear gloves to protect my hands and stuff. Um, but because I work with the highest grade vinyl, there's a lot lower chlorine in it. It would be more dangerous if I were to use um, plastic wrap over my plate in the microwave. You know what I mean? That's more dangerous than what I'm doing. So, and it's in a ventilated room. I started out outside, but I couldn't get my customers' babies done in time. So I had to bring the ovens inside, but I have an old workshop room. It has a window. It's not connected to any of my living spaces. So I bake there. It's been going really well. It hasn't affected my asthma in any way. Nobody else is having issues with it. My dog is not allowed back there, obviously. So it's going really well. And so I definitely am really excited about going full heat set this spring. Um, it's just, I mean, air dry is great. There's nothing wrong with doing air dry. Um, I just prefer, everybody is different. The only thing with heat set is it's a slower process because you have to wait for it to dry. Then you have to wait for it to bake. Then you have to wait for it to cool down before you can, do more stuff. With the air dry, it dries so fast so you can keep going, just so many layers, and then let it sit to cure and then keep going. So there's pros and cons to heat set and air dry. As far as silicone goes, I've had a lot of people want to know about silicone too. Silicone is very tedious. It's not that it's hard. It can it can be if you're not measuring it right and stuff like that, but it's very tedious. So, what I mean by that is before you have to make sure they're extremely clean. And the problem with it is because the molds that silicones, the authentic silicones, come out of are handmade with a silicone called dragon skin. Okay, and they call it dragon skin because it's very firm, like almost like a scale. See, you know what I mean? Like it's firm and very rigid, and it grabs amazing details. It's like if you ever looked at a bearded dragon and you see all the amazing details in their skin and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they call it that, because it picks up amazing detail. And so what they do is when they do the first layer, they do it very thin. They do it very thin to grab all the details and everything. They do probably about 3 thin layers. And then as they're building it up, they go thicker and thicker and thicker until they feel that it's thick enough that it won't rip or anything like that. Because when silicone is curing, it expands, almost like foam, right? It expands. So if they don't do it thick enough, it could tear. But they also make a mother mold, they call it, right? Some people use casting product. You know, when you have a cast, they'll buy that kind of stuff. Or I've seen people use all sorts of stuff. But there are sculpture stores that sell products for you to make shells, almost like turtle shells in a way. But when you first put it on, it's really smooth and soft, like Play-Doh. And then you can form it to go the way that the body is shaped, so that when you connect the top shell and the bottom shell, which is formed to the way the inner mold is shaped, it holds it in place better, so that the silicone is curing where it's supposed to cure, and it creates less bubbles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work to it, and it's very costly. Silicone is very expensive. Authentic silicone is, even like cheaper silicone can be very expensive as well if it's platinum, right? So there's different levels to platinum silicone. So these ones, the reasons why they are so expensive is, one of the reasons is they are the highest grade silicone in the platinum that you can buy. There is no higher level of silicone than her level. Okay, so that's why just the heads, just to pour like a newborn head, costs around $300. Okay, in Canada. Anyway, I don't know about the US, but in Canada it would cost about $300. So that's one of the reasons why it's so expensive. And their silicones are all made by hand. The vinyls, the sculpture will send her sculpt to a factory of their choosing. You know, there's some are in Germany, some are in Spain, some use China, but they pay for the product that they want to use. So they're not made with cheap vinyl like a doll you would buy in a store or off Amazon or, you know, something like that. They're made with very expensive vinyl. So if I were to put one of the Amazon dolls, if I would have bought one of the knockoff kits off of Amazon and put it in my oven, it's triple more toxic. It's a lot more toxic because it's a lot higher in chlorine, right? So it's way more toxic to bake. So the vinyl that I'm baking is at the highest level that you can get. So it doesn't have as much chlorine. It's still toxic when you're heating up rubber. It's toxic, right? So I still use my protection, but I would be in much more danger if I was using the cheaper, the cheaper vinyl. Sorry. So in the silicone world, we have what's called tin silicone. Okay, and then we have what's called platinum silicone. Tin silicone is cheaper, and you can buy specific paints for tin silicone, because platinum silicone will not cure to tin silicone. But the problem with tin silicone is that it crumbles over time. So you would notice that your reborn is your silicone baby is starting to crumble in parts. So that's why they don't use it. It's also more toxic. Platinum silicone is not toxic, but when you're working with it, it's more fumey. So it's not good for the lungs and all that kind of stuff. So you should wear a mask, but not everyone does. You know, everyone's like, oh, I'm not worried about it. But it can bother some people. So when I worked with silicone, when I was painting her, I didn't wear a mask. But when I was cleaning her with Novox, which is also used as a thinner, it is a bit fumey, so I did wear a mask not bad fuming, but enough where it was bothering my sinus and asthma. So, but the silicone itself is not toxic. Like if your child bit off the finger or something and swallowed it, um, they won't die. They won't wind up in a coma with toxins and all that. But the tin silicones are very, very dangerous. If it gets swallowed or, it's just not a good product to work with. Platinum is the best. So she is the highest grade platinum. So a lot of people think, well, I can bat them as much as I want because there's silicone like we use in the kitchen. So that's what I want to explain to you. The silicone that you use in the kitchen is not the same type of silicone that she's made out of. Um, it's like there's different levels to it, right? And there's different brands and there's different things that they can do to silicone. So if you want like a softer silicone, they add slacker in it. And slacker makes them more squishy, a lot more softer, and you know, they don't do like all that kind of stuff with the and the silicone that they're using to make kitchen stuff, even though it's a food safe silicone, it's still not as high graded as these ones are. So the reason why they cost so much is the value of the silicone. Everything is done by hand. The building of the sculpture, the building of the inner mold, the building of the outer mold, and taking them out and washing them up and cleaning them up and doing it all over again. I mean, you don't have to make a mold for every reborn. You can use the same mold, but it only lasts for so long, and then it starts to degrade over time, right? Because silicone gets warm, hot, gets over as it's curing, so it does degrade it over time. So, but sometimes they'll fix it, and then they'll fix the sculpture, and then they'll make another mold. So it just depends on the actual sculpture, how many they want to make. So there's a lot of her out there. She can be bought in unpainted, so she would be like a pale color. She can be bought in unpainted at McPherson Crafts, as open-eyed or closed-eyed, as a girl or a boy. This one's a girl. She's the original, which was named Johnny. Just trying to think. Sorry. So she cost around 1,700 American, not painted. So you would need to find an artist to paint them, or I held her for a while actually when she wasn't painted, because just holding her was like just so comforting. But I wouldn't have brought her online, and that would have really scared people because of how pale she was. But I really loved holding her, and so yeah, I mean, so I want to explain to you guys how a lot of the questions I've gotten is, why did I become an artist? What made me an artist? All of this stuff, right? So let me explain to you how I came into this world. When I was trying to get pregnant, I was using someone I knew as a donor, so it was all done like medically. And so you have to go through like fertility tests and all this kind of stuff. So after my first cycle of trying to get pregnant, they ran tests, because that's what they do during the time of trying to get pregnant, to make your chances as high as possible to get pregnant. Because I was like 36 at this time. And no, was that longer than that? I was 30. I think I was 38. Yeah, I was 38. Yeah, I was 38. Sorry. I was 38. I was 36 when I started thinking about getting a donor. Because I've spent my life raising other people's children as a nanny, so it made it very difficult for me to find a relationship because I was always busy with other people's kids. I'm also quite picky because I have a sister with special needs, and uh, the guy would have to be able to handle her. He would have to have the patience for her, and it's been very difficult, and my sister would have to feel comfortable around him, so it has been very difficult. I was engaged once to my high school sweetheart, and when that didn't all pan out, I had a really hard time giving my heart out again. So there's a mixture of everything combined. And I helped one of my close friends from my childhood out of a domestic violent relationship. And that really kind of affected me with trust, you know. And things that I've been through in my childhood affected me with trusting people with my children, as I am very untrusting with people with my dogs. So, I mean, it's very difficult to find someone in this world that you feel that you can trust. It's just maybe if I was more involved in looking for relationships and something like, maybe I would eventually found someone. But I just and I've always lived like a homebody life. I never went to clubs and or anything like that. So it was very hard to meet people. I tried the online dating, and the only ones that the one that I really connected with, and I talked to on the phone like every day, was lived very far away from me. It was the same country, but he was in a different province, and it was really far away, and it was heartbreaking. So that's when I stopped using the dating apps because I couldn't move because of my sister. Um, I would have, but I'm also very attached to my mother, so I didn't want to leave my mother as well. So if it wasn't for those two attachments, yeah, I would have moved there for sure. But, life circumstances, right? And my sister needs me, and I'm not willing to leave my sister for any man and whatever. So that's why I found a donor that had the same values as me, and he was willing to stay in the child's life, which was really important to me. But I told him he wouldn't be responsible for any finances, so he would sign his rights away. But I just wanted to know that he would be willing to see the child and spend time with the child and stuff like that. And he says, "Well, I've never been offered to do that." Um, you know, he said. I would love to do that. And so obviously I would have to travel to him because he lived in a different city. But I also wanted to meet my donor and all that because I wanted to make sure that they didn't have like 50 kids out there or something, or 500 kids or whatever. I wanted to meet someone that was only willing to father so many children. Um, so yeah, he was perfect. He was close to my ancestry, but not so close that there was a chance that we could be related. um, you really got to think about this stuff when you make them. But anyway, he was so great, so kind, to work with, but then before I went over for my second cycle, um, they did a ultrasound to take a look at my eggs and stuff like that, and they found a massive cyst uh, growing off of one ovary, damaging like the other ovary, and it pushed my liver over. It was big enough that it pushed my liver over, and I didn't feel it because of my weight. The fat in my body was cushioning it. So that's why I couldn't feel it pulling away. Because when you're overweight, the internal fat was kind of cushioning it where it wasn't yanking on the. Um, but I noticed during that time of the month, I was in an excruciating amount of pain. But the doctor I had at the time was just telling me that, just looked at me like I was overreacting and said, "Here, take 600 milligrams of ibuprofen. That'll help." So So it does run in my family, endometriosis and cysts and all that. My mom had a hysterectomy when I was just little. Um, my grandma had a hysterectomy in her late 20s, so it does run in my family. And here I am at 38, trying to get pregnant. So um, they had to rush me in for a emergency full hysterectomy and what they called an ooporotomy, and I had to be cut laparoscopic, which is straight down your stomach, just above your pubic bone there, like where your bikini line would be. Not that I ever wore a bikini. I don't want to scare people out there. Um, anyway, I didn't care because I don't wear bikinis, so it didn't matter to me. So anyway, it was a huge incision, and when bigger people have surgery, it's a lot more risky. And I went through internal bleeding. I had to get 3 blood transfusions because I wound up losing consciousness when they were moving me to try and get me to walk around, and so they had to call code blue and rushed me to the CT, and that's how they found out. So I went through all of this stuff, and then once I was healed and everything like that, I started looking into. One of my friends offered to donate her egg and carry a baby for me and use my donor. So I thought, that would be perfect. So I started looking into the costs for that, and then it said in order for me to leave the hospital with the baby as my own baby, I have to pre-adopt the egg, and then I would have to pay for a lawyer for my donor to sign his rights away for fatherhood, and then I would have to pay for my friend's lawyer for her to sign her rights away to the egg that was being fertilized, and also her rights um and all this kind of stuff. So it was like this was all done like through a fertility clinic and all this kind of stuff. And they told me it would combine, because I didn't have my own eggs and everything. The combination would cost me close to $80,000 to pay my friend anything that I wanted her to eat during the pregnancy. Like I have to cover all that kind of stuff. It just it wasn't gonna work. And then I looked into actual adoption through a adoption agency, and the lowest price to adopt within Canada is $30,000. So I don't have money to just shovel out this $30,000. And see, a lot of people who adopt, they'll put their house on mortgage, they'll mortgage their houses and stuff like that, and borrow the money from the bank, and that's how they pay to adopt. And I just I don't own my own house. I don't have anything high enough that I can mortgage it off like that. So, it was just, it would take me 10 years to save up that kind of money. You know, by then, I don't know I'd be much older, and, I want to be around for my child, and for my grandchildren and stuff like that. So then I looked into adopting from the system for children where parents lost their rights and everything like that, or they gave up their rights and stuff. So I looked into that. It didn't have to be a baby, but I wanted to get them like as a toddler or something like that. So, or like a preschooler, so, or kindergarten age, because that's where most of my experiences working with children. So I wanted to start them out at an age that I'm highly experienced in. I've even worked with special needs children. So that's why I wanted to start in that age group, and then we could grow together as they get older, and I could take classes for that age and for whatever issues that child has, because these are traumatized children, or like even babies when they're in the womb, they can feel when they're unwanted. And then, and it affects them as they're growing. So any child you adopt from the system is going to come with some kind of trauma, right? So I did look into that, but because my sister is mentally ill and special needs, they said they don't want to take a child from a home that was taken because of mental illness or special needs or that, and put them in another home with somebody who's been in and out of psychiatric wards since she was 14. My sister has been stable for a long time, but there's always a risk, that the meds are not working anymore or something like that. But she's not a threat to a child. But they're just looking at it like they don't want a child in an environment with someone like my sister. When they were taken from a home with someone like my sister, even though my sister wouldn't be the caregiver, I would be the caregiver. But it was, it's very difficult. I could fight that in court because my sister does have rights. She could have her psychiatrist send forms that my sister is stable to live with children, and that my sister wouldn't be alone with the child because she does have focusing issues from her medication. So they would be told the child would only be with me or someone I appoint as a caregiver that has the education to watch children. And I could get that approved and everything until they feel comfortable enough where they trust me that I'm going to do when I'm not going to leave her or him with my sister or someone who's not qualified to be watching a child, because these children have been through so much. They don't want them. And I understand that. Like, I do understand that. But, I have a lot of education with children, special needs children, traumatized children, from the age of newborn up to, I would say my most experience has been up to age 10, but generally more of kindergartners and under. But the one that I worked with mental illness was only like 11 years old. It was really sad. She had signs of schizophrenia at 11 years old, and it was difficult, but heartbreaking at the same time. So people, and as far as fostering goes, it's the same thing. They won't let me foster because of my sister, and I'm not willing to leave my sister so that I can adopt from the system or foster. I'm not willing to ditch my sister for my own dreams. You know what I mean? So I fell into a very deep depression because I felt like I didn't understand how there's people out there in the world that can be mothers that don't even care about their children, that harm their children, that neglect their children. And someone like me, who's highly educated and not a rich person, but has a lot of love to give and a lot of experience, after raising so many children, and it just can't happen. And it was devastating. It really devastated me. And I got to a point where I didn't want to live anymore, but I knew my sister needed me. So I was kind of existing, but not living. I was kind of existing for my sister, but I wasn't really living life. I felt no joy. I felt nothing. I was very numb. And then my psychiatrist, who I've always had because of PTSD and anxiety, from like childhood and up, he suggested to me about like reborns. And I said, well, doc, I did collect dolls all the way up until like I was a nanny. I always loved dolls and I always loved babies. I always hang Gettys all over my walls and stuff like that. And I said to myself, well, you know what, doc, I don't think that's going to work, because I was a nanny for 20 years. I worked a lot with real babies, and I'm not sure after all that work if I'd be able to bond with a doll or it working for, because I also raised my goddaughter for her first 8 months. And when I had to give her back, it was very abrupt, because the family was threatening to go to court and get her taken from me. And the mother was worried about that because the family are not good for raising children when they lost their own. So she was scared that they could get their hands on her. So she asked me to bring her back. And we did this on our own together. We didn't have the system involved in all of that. I was just, she was very ill with postpartum and I was helping her. So we did talk about me adopting her, but you know, that there was a lot of other things around it. So I did have separation anxiety because of that. I had nightmares for 10 years of her screaming for me. And because I could always hear her on the phone screaming if she heard my voice or anything, so I would tell her, "Don't put me on speaker," you know. And every time I would go visit her, she would scream and scream and scream for me. So I felt that like it was torture to her. So I said, I need to go away for a while. I need to go away until she forgets my voice because I just find it's torture for her. Um, and you need to stand on your own with her. And it was the most painful thing I ever had to do, but I knew I had to do it for her. And it really affected me. It still affects me to this day. I did see her again. I saw her up to her being a teenager, and then, you know, teenagers are doing their own stuff. She doesn't live locally, too. She wound up moving far away and stuff like that. So, but I did see her and everything until she's an older teenager and then just doing her own stuff. So anyway, I told my doctor, you know, I would try. I would try. So one of my friends lent me the money to get my first reborn, which was pre-owned, but they never really held him or anything. They just used him to look at him to learn because they wanted to be an artist. So they just kind of had him as a, you know, as a sample of what a reborn, high-ender reborn should look like. And then when they got to the point where they felt like they didn't really need to use him as a sample anymore, they wound up selling him, and that's how I got him. And I named him Elijah because that's what I wanted to name my son. And I had names picked out for my children since I was a kid. So it's anyway, I named him that, and it made a profound difference in my life. And my psychiatrist is actually, because I was the first patient he's ever tried it with, and he was actually very shocked at the difference because he tried medication, like stronger medications. He's tried sleep aids to help me sleep, like to try and block the nightmare. None of that. And they would just make me tired. So I told him I didn't want to take it anymore. You know, I'm just going to have to, I'm a Christian. I told him I'm just going to have to find my way through this with God, you know. And, but the difference from when I had my reborn to when I didn't have a reborn was massive. It was massive. It was very difficult for me in the first year because, you know, you do worry about haters, judgers who don't know me. They don't know that a psychiatrist suggested it for me. That they don't know anything about me. That I'm an educated person, you know, and that it was difficult because when I first started taking him out in public, I was scared not because I never took him out before, but because of how I was treated on TikTok or I wasn't on YouTube then, or when you would try and buy stuff off Marketplace, they would go through my account. And I only had this happen to me twice, but they went through my account to see what child I had because they were just curious. And when they see that, because I don't lie to, you know, I don't lie in my profile and tell everyone like I had a child and all that kind of stuff. So it says, you know, reborn mama, fur baby mama, and caregiver for my sister. So they still brought it to me. But because it would go against the guidelines of Marketplace if they didn't. And I was buying it. I never took donations other than my friend who begged me to take the clothes. Because at first I didn't want to. I wanted her to give them to a real child. And she said, yeah, but I want to see my baby's clothes on your reborns because then I can still see the clothes. Because she wasn't having any more children because she couldn't. So she had like a hard time letting go of stuff. From her last born. So I finally gave in and I said, okay, but I never took donations. I bought everything myself. Everything myself I bought. Including bassinets, a baby swing, I paid for all that myself. So she brought the swing to my house, and she lived in a different area. And then she must have been visiting someone in the area, because a couple hours later I was at my Dollarama store that's in my community, and she was there. I didn't have my Reborn with me because I took my bike, because I was still able to ride a bike at that time. This was before like my knee injury got worse. So I rode my bike there just to do a quick run, so I didn't have them with me. And then I rode back home. But when I saw her in Dollarama, she was with a friend, and she pointed at me. Like, I smiled at her because I recognized her, because she was just at my house a couple hours ago. And I smiled at her, and she whispered something to her friend and went like this and was pointing at me. And I went home and I just cried for like 2 hours. I cried my eyes out. I didn't want to live anymore. I felt like I was crazy. I felt like, you know, why is this happening to me? All I wanted to ever be was a mother. Like, I don't know why this has worked for me, but for some reason it has. And I went into a very bad depression. And then when I saw my psychiatrist, and I told him, he was very mad. He was very, very upset that someone would be that cruel to do something like that, especially when that person is able to have a child. He told me, he said, listen, he said, there are a lot of trolls out there in the world, especially on the internet, that are hiding behind their computer screens or their cell phones or their tablets, and they don't know you. They don't know your life. They don't know what you've been through. They're just cowards hiding behind a screen. And for someone to do that to you in person shows the kind of person that they are. Not the kind of person that you are, but the kind of person that they are, especially when they have what you cannot have because your body failed you. And I just cried in his office, and I said, Doc, I don't understand why this is my life. I don't understand why this is my life. Why would God give me such a gift with children if I was never meant to have them because of my body? Like, I don't understand, and he's like, it's hard to explain why people who don't deserve children, because they hurt them or they neglect them or for whatever reason that is, and people like you that would give anything to be with a child all day and raise them and teach them things and good morals and kindness and to animals and people and all that, and someone like you that can't, he said, even I have a hard time understanding why, because he's a Muslim and I'm a Christian, but God is still God, right? So we always talk, we don't say Jesus, we just say God, because I don't want to put my faith in front of his. So, but I need to work through my Christianity in order to work on things in my life. So we'll just talk about God instead of using the word Jesus, because that way he doesn't have to feel like, I want him to be able to connect with me on a believer level of a God. So, because that's what helps me, So anyway, like, he's telling me that, listen, he said, I am a board certified psychiatrist. Okay. I didn't get my credentials on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I went to school for many years, and I also have credentials for psychology because I've worked with people with brain injuries and also brain trauma. And he said, the only opinion that matters here is mine, because I'm the psychiatrist. Okay. And he said, I want you to listen to me, and I want you to hear me good. And I'm like, okay, Doc. He says, you are not crazy. You are coping. He said, if this helps you, get through the day, get through the week, get through the month without taking your life, without leaving your family, without drinking, without doing drugs, without being a bitter, angry, mean person in the world, then what does that tell you? He says, I'm telling you, it's not crazy, it's coping. And I'm your doctor, and I'm looking out for you, and that's what matters. And so I started, playing that in my head whenever trolls came onto my. I was on TikTok a lot. Whenever trolls came on my TikTok, um, whenever they. I didn't really have trolls on Facebook, to be honest with you. It was more TikTok than anywhere else. I've had trolls on here, and I've seen them today, but I just ignored them because I'm not strong now. Okay, I've had reborns for. I've been an artist now for 6 years, and I got my first reborn a year before. So I've had reborns for personal reasons for 7 years. So the first year was very, very difficult for the first year. A lot of emotions, a lot of different things. Then I had a girl custom made for me at the same age my goddaughter was when I had to give her back. And she was made to look like my great grandmother's side, and I named her Olivia, who is my great grandma's middle name. So I named her Olivia, and then I named her middle name Christine after my grandmother. So she had both of them. She had my great grandma and my grandma's name, and that's what I wanted to name my daughter. So that's what I named her. I didn't make her. Obviously, I had her custom made. I wasn't an artist yet, and I kid you not. Even my doctor was really floored by this. Because remember, 10 years of these nightmares of my goddaughter. And this reborn was the same age, 8 months, a sleeping one. Because I'm not a huge fan of the open eye ones. I do have one, silicone with open eyes, but I prefer the ones that are sleeping. Because as a nanny, they were only still when they were sleeping. So that's just me. That's just me. My sister prefers open eyes. But, I mean, she says they look like they have more personality. So, that's just me, though. But anyway, I told my psychiatrist after I had a phone call, because we were doing a lot of phone calls because of, it's hard for me to get down there with my knee injury and everything. I didn't have a mobility scooter yet or anything like that. And it was a good thing we were doing phone calls because then COVID hit. Not too long after. So anyway, I told him, I said, Doc, I have not had a nightmare since the day I got Olivia. And he's like, are you kidding me? I said, no, not one. Not one nightmare since I got her. This is weird, Doc. Because those nightmares were very triggering and they affected me through the day. So I was shocked out of my mind. I suffered for 10 years of it's almost like, I don't know how many of you have seen ER, the TV show ER, where the aunt was raising her niece because her sister abandoned her. And she was raising her since she was a young baby. And then all of a sudden, the sister came back. She got sober. She got married to a cop who also got sober in his life. And she was at a better place where she could raise her daughter. And she took her sister to court and she wound up getting her daughter back. But she really wanted a relationship with her sister. But the sister was going through what I went through with my goddaughter, and she was struggling, and she would dream of hearing her niece crying for her and trying to find her favorite toy. And she would keep having these recurring nightmares. And that's what it was like for me every day for 10 years. Of her screaming for me, of her in a room all alone, like just looking around and start screaming for me. And I could just feel her pain wanting me. And it was, or me, I've had dreams of me looking for her. I can't find her. She's not in the crib. She's not in the playpen. Where is she? And I cannot find her. And I've woken up actually out of these dreams looking for her. And my mom would have to remind me, remember, she's with her mother. Well, she would say the mother's name, but I'm not going to say that on here. She would say, remember, she's with her mother. And I was like, oh, it's a nightmare, right? So I went through this for 10 years. It was very difficult. And all of a sudden, I get my reborn Olivia, and who's the Easton kit from Bountiful Baby, and these nightmares are just gone. How is that even possible? Like, so I did have my doctor explain to me, I need to understand, doc, like, I have OCD. I analyze things. I need to know why. Like, scientifically, doc, how did that happen? I have to know. And he said that it has to do with the pheromones in the brain, where you start to, I don't know how to explain it the way he did, but it's kind of like your eyes are taking in an image, okay, and of like something that looks like a baby, right? And so your endorphins start going, like your mama, your natural feeling of being a mother and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, your arms are like empty for all these years without your goddaughter. Um, these nightmares of this baby that age screaming and screaming for you. And all of a sudden, you're holding something that resembles her age, that looks a lot like a real baby, and so your brain just takes that in, and it kind of blocks out that trauma that you've been through, because to you it's almost like a closure. You know what I mean? It's like, even though I think about my goddaughter every single day, and I don't think of her as a young woman as she is now, because she's a legal adult now, but she's still that little baby. You know what I mean? Even though I spent time with her throughout her life, in my brain, I still think of her in that way, because she was mine when she was that age. So yeah, it will never like completely leave my life. It will always be a part of my life where I suffered a lot of trauma. Um, because I had to leave. Her mother didn't make me leave. I had to leave for the sake of her, because she was suffering. Every time I would visit, she was suffering. And it wasn't good for the mother who's trying to get through postpartum depression when her baby is screaming for another person all the time. So I had to do what was best for the baby. The mother wasn't strong enough to tell me that, I think we need to take some time apart. You need to take time away from the baby for her to get to know me. She wasn't strong enough to do that. So I had to do that for her. You come to a point in your life where you love somebody so much, and as hard as it is, you will put that person way above your own needs, even if it hurts your soul. Even if it's painful, you love them so much that you have to do that for them. You have to do that for them, for their happiness. Especially when it's a child. You know, you have to do it. It's kind of like, let's say you have a dog that you love so much, that you've had for, like, say, so many years, and then you wind up having a child, and all of a sudden, this not all dogs, but this particular dog, has nipped at your child, is growling at your toddler, and all this kind of stuff, and you've tried everything, but you're scared for the baby, but you love this dog so much. But if you keep the dog and he winds up injuring the baby, that dog's at risk of being put down. So what do? You work your hardest to find a loving home for that dog where there isn't any children, so that your child is safe and that your dog never gets itself in trouble. Um, and as painful as it is, you do it for your child, and you do it for that animal, so that he can live a life with somebody where he's the focus, and he doesn't have a child bothering him and all this kind of stuff. In some cases, you can work with the animal to or sometimes animals are really great and really protective. But I'm just saying, in cases you have to make decisions that you don't want to do because you know it's going to hurt so bad, but you do it because it's the right thing to do. Um, and so that's what I had to do. It was very hard. It was very, very difficult. Um, but a lot of people, they want to judge people with reborns. I don't get judged a lot as an artist, but when the kids got out of school for Christmas, I noticed I was getting all these trolls on my artist account, which is this account, when I was working on the babies. And I wasn't even getting trolls like that on TikTok. When I do lives on TikTok in the evenings. So I thought that was really strange. But, it's funny how it all started when kids got out of school. So I think a lot of it is coming from kids, whether it's a primary age kid or a high school kid, or, it's someone who's got too much time on their hands. There are adults out there that do bully as well when they're hiding behind their computers. But I have taken my reborns in public many, many times. Vinyl, silicone, whatever. And when I do take them out, I treat them as if they're real because they don't know that they're not real. They don't know that. So if you're not being if you're too far away from the stroller, or you don't have them buckled in right, or you don't have them dressed according to weather and all that kind of stuff, people will say something. They will. Because I know I would if I didn't know the child wasn't real, I would be very concerned. So I've seen people take children out of their cars in freezing temperatures with no jacket on, no shoes on, and just say, well, they're just coming from the car into the mall. Like they don't think about how that's their system is going into shock by you doing that. At least have like a sweater, like something. Don't be pulling them out of the car in t-shirts, you know what I'm saying? And put some shoes on them or something if they're walking, like that. So but I don't go out. Sorry, I was reading the live. It does that after so long. But I in public, I've only had 3 rude people in 7 years in public. 3. For those out, but they're scared. I'm telling you, you'll have more hate online because they're hiding behind their screens than you will in public. Now, people might wonder if they get close enough or they're staring at it long enough, where sometimes I've had people say, does it breathe? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh, I thought it was one of the ones that breathe. I swear I just saw it breathing. I said, well, when you look at them long enough, sometimes you think you see them breathing. And just remember, if someone figures it out, like if they get close enough and they realize it and they just look a certain way, remember, you had time to process how out of this world, like how the heck did someone make this look so real? You've had time to process that. When people see reborns for the first time, I can tell from myself, it's very overwhelming. You need to adjust to it, right? It's kind of like if someone has a baby and the baby's born young and it's a micro preemie and it's the size of a soda can, and it's like, whoa, like the mother can't even look. Like it's so terrifying. But as she sees the child more and more, she adjusts to, okay, this is my baby, now to the next step. You know what I mean? But anything that we've never seen before can be very overwhelming. It's also like if you were to go on a boat cruise to see whales in the ocean, and the whales first jump out of the water. That can be very overwhelming and scary at first, but also, wow. And then once the whale goes back into the water, you're just like, did I just see that? You know, are they that big? Like, it's just, wow. Like, it's one of actually my dream to see whales out in the wild. That's why I use that. Um, as I won't see them in captivity. But anyway, it's like, it's very overwhelming at first. Like, whoa. And then some people might lean towards, not for me. Nope. And then other people will be like, oh, I got to have one of those. Like, oh man, wow, that's the most realistic baby doll I've ever seen in my life. Where were they when I was a kid? That's what I first thought. So, but then my mom says to me, it was funny how my mom said this. She said to me, she goes, Tanja, baby dolls are for children because they look like dolls. If people saw my kid walking around the mall holding one of those, they might have a heart attack. So, she's like, I'm glad you didn't know about them when you were a kid, because apparently they've been making these for years and years and years. But sculptures have made them look a lot more realistic through time, especially in the last 10 years. They've really come out super realistic. And there were ones even before that, but sculptures grow as they make them more and more and more. And then they came out with paints, with techniques in your art on how to really bring out the realism. So this happens over a period of time, and it doesn't happen like, everything grows. So it's okay if I got friends that are not all for, like, don't want to hold them, don't want me to bring them over or something like that. That's fine. I'm fine with that, because I'm not going to force what I want, what helps me, onto somebody else, because we're all different. So something that helps me may not be good for somebody else. You know what I mean? So I'm very respectful of that, as I would want them to respect me. So they're not going to come into my house and tell me, I want you to cover up the babies. They're not going to do that, because this is my house. And you have to respect that these are my reborns in my home, and I'm an artist, and you're going to see them. If you don't want to see them, don't come over. You know what I mean? We can meet up at a coffee shop or at your place or the mall or something like that, But my friends are very respectful to me. There were only 2 friends that I let go, because it wasn't just because of the reborns, but it was also because they were acting like COVID was a hoax, and I have a very sensitive immune system, so they weren't willing to wear a mask around me to protect me. And so I said, okay, if you don't love me enough that, whether you believe it or not, believe that I believe it, and I have a bad immune system, you should be willing to wear a mask around me for my safety, whether you feel it's necessary or not. And they just weren't very respectful. And then one of them was a Trump supporter, so they were getting mad at me because I wasn't. So, and that was the first time he ran, not the second time. So, I mean, it wasn't just one thing. It was a multitude of things. So, you're gonna have hate in the world no matter what you do. Okay? People troll mothers with special needs children, whether it's the look of the child, or whether it's a health issue of the child, or it's their speech, or whatever it is. Trolls are going to pick on those mothers. I've seen people say to them, you should have just aborted, or why don't you unplug their trach or something, like horrible things. Oh, starve them so they'll stop living already. Things like that. Horrible. And these are about real living children, real living lives. You know what I mean? Or children with cerebral palsy. I've heard them say, oh, how hard did you drop that kid on its head? Just horrific things. And I can't imagine what that's like for a mother whose every day is a challenge for them. And this is their real child that they carried, that they gave birth to, and who knows what happened, right? Who knows what caused this? And to be treated like that, so people picking on me because I have a reborn as a baby that helps me cope, I can handle them. That's, you know, I would find it much harder if they were making fun of my child that had special needs. That would be much, much more difficult for me. I wouldn't even put my kid on the internet, though. Um, I wouldn't want them on there to be displayed for them. But there are parents that want to connect with other parents, so that's why they put up the social media so they can find other parents to connect with and share with and stuff like that. Like, and some do it because that's, I don't know. I don't want to judge. So that's why I don't judge people for anything that they do, because I don't want, I know what it's like to be judged. I know what it's like to be judged as an artist. I know what it's like to be judged as a reborn mama. And so you have to live your life. You'll have to live your life and be happy. Okay? As long as you're not hurting anybody or hurting yourself, live your life and be happy. Don't let people tear you down. Don't let people take away the joy that gets you to live your life. Okay? Because they're not worth it. They're not worth your tears. They're not worth your pain. They're not worth a thought. Okay? It was very, for those of you that are new with reborns, as you use them for your therapy, whether it's for any reason, and people are not being accepting of that in your life, especially people that you know in person, you need to distance yourself from those kind of people, because they will accept you. They will accept you and they will respect you, but also respect their limitations, where if they're not comfortable with something, don't force it on them. You know what I mean? You got to have respect on both sides as well. So when my brother comes over, the heads, when they're not finished and the heads are just kind of sitting out, it really freaks him out because he's not used to it. So respectfully, when my brother comes over and stays for his visits, I will cover them. I'll cover the heads so he doesn't have to feel freaked out, right? But he doesn't mind the ones that are put together, like this one. And at first, my brother didn't kind of understand it. Like, to him, it was kind of like, what is my sister doing? But once he heard that my psychiatrist told me to do it, he was like, well, he's a psychiatrist, not me. So if he's telling my sister to do this, then I want to read up on it. I want to know why he's telling her to do this. So my brother does research. Me and my brother are very close. So my brother goes and he does research online and to find out how does Reborn help people with child loss. So, which infertility loss, child loss kind of lingers in the same. It's not the same kind of pain, but it's loss when it comes to. He started looking that up, and he found out how it works with the brain, and how it's helping that person who's struggling. And so now my brother is really, really supportive, and I show him every baby I complete. I'll send him a couple pictures of them once they're all put together and everything like that. And he's just amazed by how I make them. He's really, really amazed. Because I would say to him, bro, as a father, how close is that looking to your children when they were born? Or, when they were this age or that age. So, yeah, he's really good at, he might say, well, I would probably add something there or there. And he'll say, well, why is it painted like over here this way? So one time I painted a Laura in air dry, and she had like this little mustache right here, but it was red, like a red color, blush color. My brother asked me, well, did you go over the lip line? I said, no, bro, that's a suckle. suckle mark. You know, like if you drink milk and you get a milk mustache. Well, babies suck on their mouths, they suck on soothers, so they get this little red little mustache. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, well, that's clever. So, yeah, he's held Ella. He doesn't want to hold the one with open eyes, but he doesn't like the open eyes. But he has held Ella, and he's like, whoa. Are you sure she's not going to wake up, sis? Because I don't want to upset her. I'm like, bro, she's not real, bro. It's just a doll that looks like it's real. And it's silicone, so it feels like, you know. And the ones who have armatures actually feel like there's an arm bone in there. And but yeah, my brother's like, wow, look at the way the head wobbles and everything. And he's like, wow, sis, that's like super realistic. And I want to give it back now. So I mean, it's not something my brother would want to hold more than a couple seconds and stuff like that, but he's very respectful of how important it is to me. And he did his own research and his own, and I was so like, wow, bro, I never thought that you would actually search it. And he's like, well, I want to know how I can help my sister who wanted to off herself like just a year before. So, you know, and I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you're here, and you have a doctor who's telling you to do this. It's not like I would be more worried if a psychiatrist wasn't involved because of the trauma you've been through. But he's like, I'm really happy about this, that to see my sister back again, you know, my sister smiling and laughing and doing the things that we used to do. And, you know, our phone calls, like you wouldn't even take my phone calls. And so, you know, like not everyone has family like that though. And it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart because we should love our family even if we don't understand it. Well, if you don't understand it, why don't you take the time with all the technology that's out there and research it and learn about it? And okay, but I do want to make this statement, okay? Because before I was an artist, somebody accused me of trying to act like I was a psychiatrist and trying to treat people on the internet. So let me just put this out there. I have never, ever told somebody, get a reborn, it will change your life. Never have I ever said that, okay? I tell them what works for me, what has helped me. And if somebody tells me, oh, you know, I lost my baby, you know, do you think this would help me? You know, I always tell them, you know, everybody is different. Everybody reacts different. Everyone deals with trauma different. My suggestion to you would be that you speak to a professional like a therapist or social worker and tell them, you know, what you've been through, your trauma, and let them decide if they think that this will help you or hurt you. Because in some cases, especially if they lost their child they gave birth to, some people can fall into what is called psychosis, and they can start to believe that that baby is real. And that's when it becomes unhealthy. So that's why when my psychiatrist first started the whole reborn therapy in my life, he would call me every week for the first 2 months. And then after that, he would call me every 2 weeks. And now we talk every 3 months. And he would call me and he wouldn't say, you know, it's not real, right? He wouldn't say that, because if you do that, you can severely traumatize somebody by doing that. So he would say to me, so how's the baby today? My first one was a boy. Did he keep you up all night? And I said, Doc, I ain't getting up for reborn. If it's a real baby, I'll get up. Or if my dog needs to get outside in the middle of the night because something didn't sit right in his belly or something, I'll get up for that. But I ain't getting up in the middle of the night for a reborn. Some people do, but I like my sleep. You know, I was a nanny for 20 years. I earned my sleep. So unless it's a real child, I ain't getting up. And then, so right there, it's like, oh, she knows. Okay, good. So now he knows I'm in the mindset that I know it's not a real baby. If, you know, if I didn't respond that way, then he would just ask me other questions. You know, are you feeding the baby? How's the baby's health? Because he doesn't want to say, we do know it's not real, like right away, right? Very careful on that level. Because if someone goes through psychosis, they will panic. And it will be bad. It will be bad for people around them and for themselves. So that's why we have psychiatrists. For people who have reborns for trauma, or social workers, or they're different psychologists, or whatever it is. So now my doctor, when I told him that I wanted to be an artist, I said, Doc, I want to make these because I want to help people the way they have helped me, whether it's for anxiety or whatever it is, or collectors, or, you know, people who just love baby dolls. And I said, if they come to me with trauma, I'll just tell them that, you know, that they should talk to someone who's a professional. So they don't go through psychosis like you were worried about with me at first in the beginning. And he said, I am so proud of you. I am so, wow. He's like, I am just, you're going to show me your first reborn when you make it, right? Because he would love it when I bring the babies in, like when I bring them in to my appointment. Oh, he asked the whole, when I brought Elijah in, which is a very common name in the Muslim, you know, he'd be like, you know, they have a lot of biblical names as well. Like I had a dog named Moses, and he passed away. It will be 10 years this March, and I would call him Mo for short form. I call him Mo. And I actually had a nanny job for a Muslim family that moved here from Egypt, and his name was Mohammed, and they would call him Mo for short. So my dog is outside. I'm like, Mo, come here, Mo. And he turned around and he said, what? I said, I'm talking to my dog, Moses. So whenever he was around, I instead of Mo, so he wouldn't get confused. But we had a good laugh. We had a good laugh out of it. It was thank you so much. She certainly is precious, isn't she? But yeah, you know, I've grown a lot. I've been an artist now for 6 years today. I've gone through a lot. I've learned a lot. And I'm a lot stronger person in my reborn journey because of the trolls. So thank you, trolls. When you write hateful things on my channel, it actually benefits my channel, because every comment I get, every reaction I get benefits my channel. And the cool thing that YouTube has is that if you get trolls, you can, if you press down on the comment, you can have that. They don't have like a blocking thing, but you can have their comments hidden, which is really cool, because they'll keep typing and they'll think that their comments are going through, but we actually can't see them once I hide them. And it stays that way. So they think every time they come back, if they come back, they could be writing all kinds of stuff and I see it. But YouTube is sending me the insights. They call them insights on my lives, and it's showing thousands and thousands of people coming onto my live, which boosts my channel. So thanks. And I really love that, because when you block someone, they can't see your channel anymore. They can't do all that. But when you just hide the user and they keep commenting stuff over and over, like I've had people in the past, like when I didn't get a chance to block them, on TikTok, they would keep repeating themselves through the live because other people, most of the people I get are more good than trolls. So I'm ignoring them. So they keep trying to get their comment through. So they keep repeating it and repeating it. So that's what's happening on YouTube. Once I hide them, they keep saying ignorant things, but I can't see it. And none of you can see it. So what's so awesome about that is they think we all are seeing this, but we're not. But I'm getting the benefit of the insight. So it's boosting my channel. So YouTube is showing my channel more because of it. And I just, I just love that. I absolutely just love that. Um, but sometimes, the lettering on YouTube, the only thing I don't like about YouTube is that it's very small lettering. So it's very hard for me to read it. Visors on. The phone is not near me, so you can see both of us. So the phone is not actually like right in front of me, so I can't read it. But the lettering is like so small, and you can't change the font size. I looked into that, and you can't. So on TikTok has a thing where if you slide it, the screen over to the right, it's more darker. You can still see your live, but it's darker, and the lettering is bigger. So that's pretty good. So I would do that, but on YouTube, they just don't have that capability. That's why it's very hard for me to respond to you guys. Oh, UK. I saw the letter UK. I love UK. That's where I order my supplies from. Thank you, Psychic. I appreciate that. Very special day for me. And a happy new year to everybody. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I wish you all to have a very special new year. For my new year, I'm hoping for better health. Growth. Weight loss. Pepsi. And I'm going back swimming in April. Weight loss is my goal because I have a knee injury and the added weight is not helping me. So, and I can't, the knee injury makes it very difficult for me to do exercises, long walks like I used to, and all that kind of stuff. But swimming is an exercise that I can do pain-free, So I'm going back to swimming in April. My sister is helping me so I can start using my Gazelle because I sprained my knee about 3 weeks ago, so I wasn't able to use my Gazelle because I couldn't put it anywhere. But now it's like a skiing motion, and that'll help me as well until I can get back to swimming. So I was diagnosed with IBS a couple months ago, and so it's been really difficult because I've been drinking drinks with sweetener in it. It hasn't handled that very well. And I don't think it's handling those pills I'm taking. They're tea extract pills because black tea is stronger. So it's really affecting me poorly right now. So I'm not going to be able to take those tea pills. Maybe down the road once my I have more healing and my gut is more working naturally again. Maybe I could try because I used to take them all the time, never had a problem. But I've been having a lot of problems with digestion for 8 months. So my body needs to heal from that. So I'm going to just, have green tea in the morning and green tea like in a mug, and it has peppermint in it, so it's good for my digestion. And then when I work in the afternoon, and then if I'm doing an evening live, then I'll have one in the evening. Or if I have a fatigue disorder, but too much caffeine can also put your IBS into high gear. It's not good. So it's been a really rough 8 months. That's why I haven't even walked my dog. Like, I'll walk him around the block or something like that, but I haven't been able to leave my house. It's been very difficult. And I'm back to square one right now because I haven't gotten better since I stopped the sweetener drinks, and it might be because of the tea pills. So I'm stopping the black tea, green tea, white tea mixture pills for now. Um, because I don't like drinking green tea, like hot tea in the summer. So I'm gonna just have to figure something out for the summer. Like maybe if I make homemade green tea myself. Like I didn't mind. Nestea used to make iced tea in a can, and they used to put green tea with regular iced tea. So it had a little bit of caffeine in it, enough to like kind of give me a picker upper. But there's a lot of sugar in that. There's a lot of sugar in that. So I was kind of thinking, like maybe if I make my own homemade iced tea and just put a little bit of sugar where I can control how much sugar is in there, and it's freshly made, and I can just like pour it in a mug and just gulp it down just to get that little help to get through the day. Oh, but my goal is to eventually sculpt reborns, whether they're silicone, whether they're vinyl. That is my highest goal in the reborn world, is to be able to sculpt them. So I don't have a lot of time for sculpting because of everything that I've dealt with in the last 3 years has put me behind in schedule for a lot of things. So once I get caught up, I have gotten caught up quite a bit. So but I've also had financial stuff going on. So I've had to take on some custom jobs to pay for that. Because with all the, also the high increases in prices and everything, even for vet care, food, necessities you need, it's ridiculous. Reborn supplies are way more expensive for me because I'm Canadian, and our money is not as worth as much as America. It's not as worth as much as the UK. So things do cost me even more money, and shipping is expensive, and import fees is expensive, and you know what I mean? So it's just very costly, and heat set products cost a lot more money. So in order to buy more kits and supplies, I need to make them to sell them, and I have a hard time selling them. I really do. So I've been doing a lot of customs from the very beginning to help me along. But I will be slowing down. I'm only doing customs for people that I know that are understanding about my health issues. So I'm only doing customs for them, and customers I worked for before. Um, but I'm not doing customs for the public anymore, because I just want to focus on it's also added stress, which isn't good for me. If I have to worry about, are they going to get upset that I got vertigo? Are they going to get, upset over this because it's taking me more longer to do this? Are they going to blast my name on the internet? Are they going to try and tear down my business? And are they going to call me a scammer? And, and all this kind of stuff. So it's very nerve wracking. So that's why I decided that I need to, for my health, I do need to pull back on customs for people I don't know. So I'm sorry for those that it affects because of what someone put me through a year ago. I do apologize that it affects you. Um, but you will have opportunity to buy wonderful, beautiful babies that I'm making. And if people want to put a hold on one of my babies, I'm more than happy for them to choose. If I plan to root that reborn, I'm more than happy for you to choose a hair color for that reborn if you pay for your own hair. I'm more than happy to do that. So the end, I don't mind customizing. But through the process, you know what I mean? I want to work on my own time. You know what I'm saying? I also, one of my goals for this year is to learn how to paint hair. Because I've had people ask me, do you ever paint hair? I find the hair, the rooted hair, to be too much of a pain to deal with, and it eventually will fall out over time. I'd rather just have painted hair. It's easier to deal with. So I've had a lot of customers ask me that, and I've never done it before. So that is a goal of mine to learn this year. So you will see that. You will see that. Reborns are a wonderful, beautiful imitation of a real life baby. Realistic, super, and well, different levels, right? Every artist is at a different level. So some are like super high, and some are like high, some are like in the medium, and then some are in the lower, and then some are scary. So anyway, I'm very grateful for all the support I've gotten over these last 6 years. I'm grateful for the customers who have trust, except for the one that have trusted me to make their beautiful babies, who have stood by me during this crazy time with not only my health but other aspects of my life that has slowed me down. I'm grateful for my mother, who's my number one fan, who has supported me financially, emotionally. I'm extremely grateful. I'm grateful for my sister when she does videos. When I make her babies, she brings my babies that I've made, and she shows them, which has brought me customers. So thank you, sis, for that. And I'm just grateful to all my friends who have been very supportive, and most of all, I'm very grateful to my psychiatrist for bringing reborns into my life, because I don't know where my life would be. I don't even know if I would still be here. So I'm very grateful to my psychiatrist for bringing something so amazing into my life. And I'm very grateful to God, to my Heavenly Father, to Jesus for comforting me and guiding me through this ordeal, and helping me get through the hatred in the world towards reborns, the judgment, the cruelty. I go to prayer with it. As you can see, I listen to worship music when I'm working, so that, because I love worship music, but also if trolls are coming in, I just look to God and I say, I pray for them, God. I pray for them. I'm not even going to let it upset me. I'm going to pray for them, because clearly there's something going on in their life that is so bad, that has affected them so much, that they need to come online and be hateful to somebody else. So I've come a long way. I've come a long way. I'll tell you, from the beginning, when my first reborn, I've come a long way with the strength of it towards the trolls, the bullies, the hate. I don't allow it to infect me. I don't allow it to take away my joy. So even though my munchkin here is not a living, real, I love her so much. Even though she can't obviously love me back, I love her so much, and I'm grateful for the comfort that God gives me through her. God uses her as a tool in my life, just as He uses stuffed animals for kids to help kids feel comforted, and adults. I still have stuffed animals. And I'm just very grateful in my life to be able to do what I do and impact the good people in the world who have supported me and who are getting to know me, who are new to this world and struggling where I did in the beginning. And now I can help those people. So I'm grateful for the knowledge that has been given to me to help people. And I'm grateful that God gave me the heart of empathy, so that I want to do it to help other people. I want to help people. And that way, the suffering that I have been through does not go in vain. It does not go in vain. It is used to help people. So I'm grateful for that. So I wish you all to have a happy new year, for your health, for your happiness, and for your growth. And I hope that you will follow me in my growth, because reborn learning never stops. It never stops when you're an artist. You are constantly learning new things. And for your reborn mamas, there's always another baby out there. There's always more kids out there that you're going to want. I mean, they just keep getting better and better. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So, also a huge thank you to Laura Lee Eagles, who is a Canadian sculptor. It's very hard to find Canadian sculptors. So we love you, Laura, and we appreciate your reborn so much. And we celebrate your gift as well. And I hope one day to own one of her silicones. I don't know, but I hope. I'm waiting for her latest, Sana. She's a chunkier baby, and I'm looking very, very excited to meeting her, and probably not until the spring because there's still a lot to be done to get her kits out there to customers. But I'm very, very excited for her to enter my nursery when she's painted and all that sorts of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go on with my day. And I know you guys might have plans, or you might just be chilling for the day because you're tired from last night. Who knows? The UK were in 2026 before we were, and so was Australia and all that. They've already been in the 2026. So let's do this, right? New year, new growth. Got to change her out of Christmas clothes now. Say bye-bye. Mwah. Mwah. Bye, my lovelies.